20 circus freaks you won't believe that actually existed step right into a world that once blurred the line between marvel and mystery. In this video, we uncover 20 real circus freaks who actually existed. Astonishing lives, rare conditions, and stories so unbelievable, you'd swear they were fiction. Prince Randian, the human serpent. Born into a world that saw limitation first, Prince Randian carved his name into the history of performance through sheer willpower and a spirit that defied expectation. Arriving into life in 1871 in British Guiana with no arms or legs, he faced challenges most would never imagine. Yet on the stage, wrapped in a one-piece wool garment and propelled by his own strength, he moved with surprising grace, drawing gasps from crowds as he lit cigarettes, wrote with chalk, and shaved, all without the use of limbs. Discovered by P.T. Barnum in his late teens, Randian spent over 40 years in sideshows, astonishing audiences across America. His presence was captivating, but his resilience, quiet and steady, was what lingered in people's minds long after the tent came down. Offstage, he spoke 4 languages fluently and raised a family with his wife, Princess Sarah, in New Jersey. In 1932, he appeared in Todd Browning's Freaks, where his abilities were captured on film for the world to see. When he passed away in 1934, the man once billed as the living torso left behind more than a performance. He left a legend built not on pity, but on perseverance and undeniable human strength. Ella Harper, the Camel Girl. Ella Harper entered the American spotlight in the late 19th century, not by chasing fame, but by the force of biology and circumstance. Born in Tennessee in 1870, she came into the world with an extremely rare condition known as genu recurvatum, a deformity that caused her knees to bend in reverse, forcing her to walk on all fours. The crowds who gathered under the tent flaps of W.H. Harris's nickel-plate circus didn't expect grace, but that's what they got. Draped in dresses tailored for crawling and guided into center ring before hushed audiences, Ella stunned the public with agility that defied expectation. Her image appeared on lithographs and broadsides across the country, labeled the Camel Girl, a name the press seized on to amplify her intrigue. And yet, beneath the posters and ticket lines, there was a girl with her own quiet ambition. By 1886, she stepped away from the stage, traded crowds for classrooms, and walked into a life of her own making. Later records confirm she married and remained in Nashville, where she lived away from the glare of exhibition. Her story stands as a window into a time when physical difference became commodity, and a young woman, once the subject of gawking fascination, chose a different ending for herself. Chang and Eng Bunker, conjoined twins. Under the scorching sun of early 19th century Siam, 2 brothers entered the world fused at the chest by a stretch of cartilage and a shared liver, an anatomical marvel that would later reshape how science, society, and spectacle intersected. Born on May 11, 1811, Chang and Eng Bunker defied not only medical norms, but cultural boundaries. By 1829, they had crossed oceans and arrived in the United States, where audiences flocked to see the Siamese twins, a label that would outlive them by centuries. Their exhibitions were meticulously designed to do more than provoke curiosity. They demonstrated cooperation, precision, and endurance, whether they were dressing, walking, or completing daily tasks in sync. Over time, the brothers took control of their career, left the stage, and settled into life as farmers in North Carolina. They married 2 sisters, raised 21 children between them, and managed 2 households on alternating schedules. Despite living conjoined for over 6 decades, they built separate lives where it counted most. Their story isn't merely a medical case, it's a portrait of adaptation, autonomy, and ambition, played out under the gaze of a world still grappling with the boundaries of normalcy and difference. Edward Mordrake, the man with two faces. Who was the man said to be tormented by a face that never slept, one that smiled when he wept and muttered horrors no one else could hear? Edward Mordrake's tale emerges from the fog of 19th century curiosity, wrapped in wealth, sorrow, and the grotesque. Described as an English aristocrat burdened by a parasitic second visage at the back of his skull, Mordrake was said to have pleaded with surgeons and mystics alike, hoping to be freed from what he called his devilish twin. No blade dared make the cut. According to the legend, that face never spoke aloud, but its lips moved by night, murmuring curses and vile secrets until his sanity dissolved. The story first appeared in an 1895 article packed with oddities, published by a fiction writer who cited a scientific society that never existed. A year later, it was copied nearly word for word into a respected medical text, cementing its place in the folklore of deformity. To this day, no records confirm his birth, death, or lineage. Some have speculated rare conditions like craniopagus parasiticus or diprosopus, but no diagnosis fits the whispers. Whether he walked among us or never existed at all, Edward Mordrake lives on, as a chilling boundary between what medicine explains and what myth refuses to release. General Tom Thumb, little big talent. He stood no taller than a child's outgrown toy chest, yet Charles Sherwood Stratton, better known as General Tom Thumb, rose to become one of the most celebrated entertainers of the 19th century. Born in 1838 in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Charles stopped growing at just 6 months old. By age 4, he measured only 25 inches in height. That same year, fate knocked in the form of P.T. Barnum, who saw in the boy not a novelty, but a spectacle waiting to be shaped. With Barnum's guidance, Stratton mastered dance, mimicry, and stage presence with remarkable polish. Rebranded as a general and dressed in finely tailored uniforms, he entertained crowds from Manhattan to London, where Queen Victoria herself reportedly laughed at his charm. His tours across Europe drew thousands, while merchandise bearing his likeness flooded the market. In 1863, his lavish wedding to fellow performer Lavinia Warren drew dignitaries, reporters, and guests by the thousands. As the years passed, Stratton became a shrewd businessman, investing in property and helping rescue Barnum from financial ruin. When he died in 1883 at the age of 45, the world mourned not a sideshow act, but a man who turned limitations into legend, one measured not in inches, but in impact. Which of these performers left the biggest impression on you, and why? Schlitzie, star of Freaks. What does it mean to shine in a world built to mock what it doesn't understand? Schlitzie, born in 1901 in the Bronx, stood on stages across America, not as an actor playing a role, but as himself. Diagnosed with microcephaly, his stature was small, his head unusually shaped, and his mind functioned at the level of a child. But where others saw limitation, Schlitzie brought wonder. Dressed in a colorful smock and often billed as the last of the Aztecs or the Monkey Girl, he sang, danced, waved to crowds, and connected with audiences through joy rather than spectacle. His rise to cultural icon came with Todd Browning's 1932 film Freaks, where he appeared alongside other sideshow performers, not to terrify, but to remind viewers of our shared humanity. Though often misunderstood, he inspired protectiveness and admiration from his fellow performers and caretakers. After years in the circus circuit, including a legal guardianship under animal trainer George Surtees, Schlitzie spent his final days in Los Angeles parks, grinning at strangers, clapping to his own rhythm. His story, often reduced to sideshow lore, now serves as a bridge between compassion and exploitation, proof that dignity can thrive in the unlikeliest places. Lionel, the lion-faced man. A thick mane of hair framed his face from forehead to chest, earning him the name Lionel, the lion-faced man. But behind the dramatic appearance was a soul marked by grace and brilliance. Born Stefan Bobrowski in 1890 in Poland, he lived with a rare genetic condition called hypertrichosis, which caused dense hair growth across most of his body. At 4 years old, he entered the care of a German showman who introduced him to the stage, and from that point, his life unfolded beneath the spotlight. Audiences were first drawn to his startling looks, but it was his soft-spoken manner and multilingual wit that won their admiration. Over the years, Lionel appeared in circuses across Europe and the United States, including the famed Barnum and Bailey. He wasn't merely a curiosity, he was a performer who engaged with crowds, told his life story, and executed gymnastic feats that surprised and delighted. Fluent in 5 languages and admired for his intellect, he blurred the line between spectacle and humanity. By the time he retired in the late 1920s, Lionel had left behind more than applause. He had challenged beauty standards and reminded the world that dignity often arrives in unexpected forms. Daisy and Violet, Hilton, conjoined performers. How do you define individuality when 2 lives are bound by flesh, yet shaped by separate dreams? Daisy and Violet. Hilton, born in 1908 in Brighton, England, came into the world joined at the hip, literally and figuratively. With separate organs but a shared circulatory system, their existence was both a biological marvel and a human challenge. Raised under the strict control of Mary Hilton, a woman who saw profit before protection, the girls were displayed on stages across continents. They were taught music, dance, and charm, skills honed not for self-expression, but for applause sold by others. When Mary died, her daughter and son-in-law assumed control, extending the cycle of exploitation. But in 1931, with remarkable courage, the sisters won their legal independence after a publicized court battle. From that point forward, they took charge of their artistry, appearing in vaudeville shows and films such as Freaks and Chained for Life. Their performances were no longer a showcase of their condition alone. They became a platform for talent, tenacity, and dignity. While the world watched in curiosity, Daisy and Violet carved a legacy of resilience that continues to provoke admiration and reflection across generations. Johnny Eck, the Halfman. In the heart of Baltimore, 1911, a boy arrived with a body unlike most, but a will as strong as iron. Johnny Eck was born with sacral agenesis, a rare condition that left his lower torso undeveloped. Yet from his earliest years, he moved with a defiant grace, walking on his hands before he could speak in full sentences. Growing up beside his twin brother Robert, Johnny showed an early gift for the arts, sketching city scenes, painting screens, building models, and eventually conducting an orchestra of his own. His entry into performance came swiftly after a chance encounter with a magician, leading to a career that stretched from vaudeville stages to Hollywood film sets. In Freaks, 1932, his role cemented him as a singular figure in sideshow history, an entertainer whose strength and agility were matched only by his charm and wit. Far more than a novelty act, Johnny became an engineer, a business owner, a showman. Crowds may have arrived out of curiosity, but they left having witnessed courage shaped by talent and vision. His story endures as a striking example of artistry born through perseverance, and a reminder that greatness isn't measured in stature. Myrtle Corbin, four-legged girl. What would you do if you were born with 4 legs? For Myrtle Corbin, that question wasn't hypothetical. It shaped the course of her extraordinary life. Born in 1868 in Lincoln County, Tennessee, she entered the world with a condition called dipagus, which caused her body to develop 2 separate pelvises and an additional pair of legs from a partially formed twin. By the age of 13, her unusual anatomy had drawn the interest of physicians and showmen alike. propelling her into the world of sideshows under the title Four-Legged Girl from Texas. She quickly became a sensation, performing for large crowds and earning a generous income, reportedly as much as $450 a week, a staggering figure at the time. Her case was frequently documented in medical literature, not only for its rarity, but also for the unusual fact that she possessed 2 sets of reproductive organs. In 1886, she married a physician named James Clinton Bicknell and gave birth to 5 children, defying the expectations often placed on those with congenital differences. Myrtle Corbin's life was not only a marvel of medical curiosity, it also challenged cultural notions of beauty, normalcy, and womanhood in an era unprepared to fully understand her. If this journey through forgotten lives moved you, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We've got more stories that history almost left behind. Annie Jones, the bearded lady. She was barely out of infancy when the world began to stare. Born in 1865 in Marion, Virginia, Annie Jones entered life with a condition known as hypertrichosis, which caused coarse hair to grow across her face by the age of 5. In an era obsessed with physical rarity, her condition soon caught the attention of the legendary showman P.T. Barnum. Marketed as the Infant Esau, and later the Bearded Lady, she became a fixture in Barnum's American Museum and eventually a central figure in his traveling exhibitions. But Annie was far more than a poster curiosity. She was poised, musically gifted, and fluent in self-presentation, traits that elevated her beyond the gaping crowds and helped her build a respected career over 3 decades. Annie's portraits, taken by famed Civil War photographer Matthew Brady, appeared across the country, giving her a visibility few women of her time achieved. Her personal convictions were equally strong. She actively spoke against the dehumanizing label, freak, advocating for dignity in an industry built on difference. Annie Jones died of tuberculosis in 1902 at the age of 37, leaving behind a name etched not in pity, but in admiration. Frank Lentini, Three-Legged Man. Under the glare of carnival lights and the gaze of curious crowds, Frank Lentini made his entrance, 3 legs and a grin sharp enough to slice through disbelief. Born in 1889 in Sicily with a fully formed extra limb thanks to a parasitic twin, Lentini didn't retreat from the spotlight. He ran toward it and brought his 3rd leg with him. By the time he was 8, he had arrived in America, where his knack for clever wit was as impressive as his acrobatics. He'd joke that he needed a bigger dinner plate than most, and audiences loved him for it. Lentini's stage presence wasn't built on sympathy. It thrived on agility, charm, and the novelty of watching someone kick a football across the tent with an appendage no one expected. His act wasn't limited to physical stunts. He delivered stories too, peppered with humor, but anchored in self-awareness. Alongside feats that defied anatomy, he taught onlookers something subtler. A life shaped by difference could also be a life rich in agency, creativity, and unapologetic joy. From ringling tents to vaudeville halls, he didn't ask for pity. He asked for applause, and he got plenty. Fanny Mills, Big-Footed Woman. How did a young immigrant girl with feet the size of stovepipes become a national fascination in 19th century America? Fanny Mills, born in 1860 in England and later raised in Sandusky, Ohio, lived with an extremely rare condition, Milroy's disease. The illness caused intense swelling in her lower limbs, forcing her to rely on shoes made from goatskin and pillowcases worn as socks. Rather than retreat into isolation, Fanny stepped into the spotlight. In the mid-1880s, following her father's death, she entered the sideshow circuit to earn a living, drawing huge crowds from coast to coast. Promoters crafted outlandish stories, including a fake cash reward for any man willing to marry her, all while she was already wed to William Brown. Despite the spectacle built around her, Fanny remained a symbol of perseverance in an era that often valued spectacle over humanity. Her story came to a close in 1899, at age 39, when health issues brought on by her lifelong condition claimed her life. Today, she remains one of the most distinctive figures in the history of curiosity exhibitions, where personal strength met public wonder in a world still learning how to accept difference. George and Willie Muse, Martian ambassadors. Bathed in spotlight and wrapped in circus banners, George and Willie Muse were once paraded as Echo and Eco, the so-called Martian ambassadors. Born at the turn of the 20th century in Virginia, the brothers were black and had albinism, a rare genetic trait that made them targets in an era obsessed with the unusual. In 1899, they were taken from their mother, Harriet Muse, and thrust into a world where spectacle overruled dignity. Their identities were rewritten for profit, their roots erased beneath outlandish titles and fabricated backstories. Yet beneath the circus lights, George and Willie revealed real talent, captivating crowds, not with oddity but with music, strumming banjos and harmonizing with grace far beyond what their exploiters intended. Their journey took a dramatic turn when Harriet discovered their whereabouts and waged a battle not only for her son's freedom, but for their humanity. Her efforts forced a reckoning with the showmen who had built empires on exploitation. In reclaiming their names and lives, the Muse brothers became a powerful symbol of resilience, of talent denied its proper stage, and of a mother who refused to let her sons be lost to history. Pasqual Pinon, two-headed Mexican. The legend of the two-headed Mexican didn't begin in a circus tent. It began under the blazing Texas sun, where a Mexican railroad worker named Pasqual Pinon carried more than freight on his back. A large benign tumor atop his head became the foundation for one of the most grotesque spectacles in sideshow history. When he was discovered by a traveling show promoter in the early 1900s, the man saw a chance to craft a new marvel. A fake second face, sculpted from wax or silver and painted to mimic human features, was mounted on the growth. Advertised as having two functioning heads, one real, one artificial, Pinon was paraded before audiences as a medical oddity and a spectacle of nature gone awry. His act toured across North America with the Cells Floto Circus, drawing fascinated and often horrified spectators. Despite the exploitative nature of the performance, Pinon used the opportunity to support his family financially, sending money home and building a modest legacy amid the chaos. Eventually, the fake head was removed, and he returned to life outside the spotlight. Today, Pasqual Pinon stands as a strange symbol, not only of sideshow deception, but of human resilience in the face of objectification and economic desperation. Which of these historical figures would you want to learn more about? Let us know in the comments. Alice Doherty, the Werewolf Girl. Could any crowd ever look away from a child born with a halo of hair covering every inch of her skin? Alice Elizabeth Doherty entered the world in Minneapolis in 1887, carrying a condition so rare it would make her name linger across sideshow history, hypertrichosis lanuginosa, which coated her face and body in soft, silvery fur. Dubbed the Minnesota Woolly Girl, she began appearing in storefront exhibits before her third birthday, drawing curious eyes wherever she went. Her parents, seeing a means of survival, introduced her to the circuit of traveling curiosity shows, where she became known as the Werewolf Girl. As she grew, Alice became more than an attraction. She was admired for her calm demeanor, her clarity of thought, and the dignity with which she handled the spectacle. Though always framed by the expectations of the stage, she longed for a life of peace. After retiring in her 20s, she moved to Dallas, choosing privacy over fame. She passed in 1933 at age 46. In a time when difference often meant exploitation, Alice's story endures as a rare case of quiet strength and resilience, of a girl who bore the spotlight without ever surrendering herself to it. Charmion, trapeze artist and strong woman. She soared through the air in corsets and silk, then let gravity and daring transform the stage beneath her. Born Lavery Cooper, in 1875, the woman the world came to know as Charmion didn't merely perform, she shattered convention mid-swing. Her signature act, where she climbed a trapeze dressed in full Victorian layers and removed them mid-flight to reveal a leotard, was filmed by Thomas Edison in 1901 and stirred both admiration and outrage. While many blinked in shock, others saw something revolutionary, a woman commanding the spotlight with power and grace in an era that policed both. As she flipped and flexed above roaring crowds, she redefined what strength could look like in a woman's body. But Charmion's legacy reached beyond the velvet curtains. Off stage, she became a fierce advocate for women's fitness and physical culture, encouraging strength not as spectacle, but as self-respect. Her career blazed through vaudeville circuits, defying the rigid molds of femininity with every controlled swing and choreographed drop. After decades performing in top venues, she stepped away from the spotlight in 1912 and lived the rest of her life quietly in California. Yet the path she carved remains unforgettable, a tribute to boldness, vision, and the freedom to move unapologetically. Coo Coo the Bird Girl. The stage erupted in gasps the moment she appeared, feathers swaying, arms flapping, eyes wide with a distant sparkle. Minnie Woolsey, better known as Coo Coo the Bird Girl, stepped into history with a presence that defied every convention of beauty and performance. Born in Georgia in 1880, she lived with Virchow-Seckel syndrome, a rare genetic condition that gave her a bird-like visage, small head, pointed nose, and a receding chin. Her life before the stage was marked by hardship and confinement, but her entrance into the world of sideshows turned the very thing that set her apart into her spotlight. Draped in elaborate costumes complete with plumes and tiaras, she mimicked the awkward elegance of a bird in flight, fluttering, spinning, captivating audiences with every choreographed twitch. One of her most memorable appearances came in the 1932 cult film Freaks, where she danced with abandon, a surreal figure both haunting and oddly joyful. Offstage, however, little is known about Minnie's private life. She never married and reportedly spent her final years in institutions, largely forgotten by the world that once gawked at her. Felix Wehrle, the Elastic Man. What would drive a man to twist his own body into shapes most thought impossible, and then do it for roaring crowds across the country? Born in 1858 in Mount Ida, Wisconsin, Felix Wehrle became known as the Elastic Skin Man, a performer whose body obeyed rules far different from those of his fellow men. With flesh that stretched far beyond the norm and fingers that bent at uncanny angles, Wehrle astonished onlookers in dime museums and circus arenas, including the iconic Ringling Brothers stage. But behind the spotlight stood a medical anomaly that science only later began to understand. Today, his condition aligns with what is now called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a disorder of the connective tissues that causes extreme skin elasticity and joint hypermobility. Wehrle's pliable body wasn't a trick, it was a rare biological blueprint, one captured in early photographs by Charles Eisenman, that remain important clinical references. His exhibitions blurred the line between scientific curiosity and showbiz spectacle. He spent decades transforming his condition into a career, turning the public's wonder into sustenance. When he died in 1933, the stage lost one of its strangest icons, but the medical world gained an enduring example of the body's uncharted potential. Martin Laurello, the Owlman. Necks weren't built to do what Martin Laurello's could. On stage, with a slow, calculated motion, he would rotate his head a full 180 degrees, chin turning to nape, until he stared straight into the crowd behind him. No tricks, no wires. Spectators watched in stunned disbelief as this man, billed as the human owl, defied every known limit of the human spine. Born Martin Emmerling in 1885 in Nuremberg, Laurello began honing his astonishing flexibility after immigrating to the United States. Years of practice, possibly aided by a rare spinal condition, enabled him to manipulate his neck in a way few dared to imagine. He made a name for himself, performing in Ripley's Believe It or Not, Ringling Brothers, and sideshows across Coney Island and beyond. But his act didn't stop at contortion. He also trained animals for live stunts, adding a theatrical flair to his shows. Though his personal life veered into controversy, his career remained a fixture of American oddity culture for decades. Martin Laurello's name endures not through legend, but through the visual shock of a body moving against nature's rules, and the eerie grace with which he did it. History's most tragic giant. Towering over everyone they met, Anna Haining Bates and Andre the Giant became global sensations. One, a gentle giantess who befriended Queen Victoria. The other, a wrestling icon whose size made him a legend. But their extraordinary heights came with unique challenges. Join us as we uncover the fascinating and often heartbreaking stories of these remarkable individuals. Anna Haining Bates. Anna Haining Bates came into the world on August 6, 1846 in Nova Scotia. Her parents, Anne Graham and Alexander Swan, were Scottish immigrants who'd made a new life across the ocean. They had a big family, 12 other children, all of average height. But Anna was different. Right from the start, she stood out. She was the odd one out, a fact that would shape her whole life. She wasn't just taller than her siblings, she was exceptionally tall, a giantess amongst ordinary folks. Imagine the wonder, the curiosity, even the fear that she must have provoked. She tried to be normal. Anna wasn't just a traveling spectacle. She looked after her younger siblings, read avidly, and pursued artistic hobbies. She tried as much as possible to live a normal life despite her extraordinary circumstances. She had dreams, just like any other young woman. But her unique situation made some of those dreams tragically impossible from the outset. Her dreams were simple. Anna dreamed of becoming a teacher. She even tried attending school in a different city, staying with an aunt to pursue her education. But the classrooms were too small, the desks too cramped, and the constant stares and whispers from strangers on the streets made her feel uncomfortable and unwelcome. Sadly, her dream of teaching was dashed. But, as we'll see, a very different and perhaps even more remarkable chapter of her life was about to begin. Her grandmother helped her. Anna's grandmother played a crucial role in keeping her spirits up. She gave Anna this wonderful advice: stand tall and be proud of your Highland ancestry. These words helped Anna embrace her uniqueness and develop a strong sense of self-worth. Her grandmother's wisdom gave her the strength to face the challenges ahead and carve out her own special path in the world. And, as we'll soon see, that path led to extraordinary heights. She seized the opportunity. Anna's height, once a source of difficulty, now became a key to new opportunities. In 1862, she moved to America and joined P.T. Barnum's museum as the Nova Scotian giantess. This wasn't just a job, it was a chance for education and self-improvement. She received tutoring, learned to play the piano, and even developed her singing voice. Barnum's museum offered her access to things unimaginable for a woman of her time. Truly a remarkable opportunity. She grew rapidly. Now, there's some debate about Anna's early years. Some say she was a normal-sized baby. Others claim she was a whopping 13 pounds at birth. Whatever the truth, by age 4, she was already over 4 feet tall and weighed over 90 pounds. That's incredible. And things only got more remarkable. By 15, she'd shot up to 7 feet tall. But even that wasn't the end of her growth. This wasn't a typical growth spurt. It was something extraordinary, something that set her apart from everyone else. Her height continued to increase, making her one of the tallest women in history. She had nothing left. The fire destroyed everything Anna owned. Because of her size, she was the last to leave and couldn't save a single possession. It's important to note that while her size hindered her escape, Anna also bravely assisted others to safety before she herself left, making her both a victim and a hero in the event. This act of selflessness, despite the immense personal loss, truly shows the compassionate side of this remarkable woman. She loved to connect. Anna was known for her intelligence and kindness. She formed deep friendships with others who were also physically different, creating a strong network of support. Her warm personality even led to an unlikely friendship with one of the most famous royals of the era. It seems her ability to connect with people transcended all boundaries. She made a royal friend. Anna's fame took her all over Europe and the United States, although she did occasionally return to Nova Scotia. During her travels, she formed a remarkable friendship with Queen Victoria herself. This unlikely bond shows the power of Anna's personality to connect with people from all walks of life. She dodged opportunists. Anna's unique appearance and success brought many marriage proposals, but having experienced the exploitative side of show business, she was cautious and discerning. It was hard for her to know who was genuinely interested in her and who was only after her money. Then, she met a man who changed everything. An unlikely mate found her. While visiting a circus in Halifax, Anna met Martin Van Buren Bates, another giant, a man over 7 feet tall and weighing nearly 500 pounds. It was a case of instant recognition, a meeting of two extraordinary individuals. This encounter would profoundly impact both their careers and their hearts. She had a special condition. While she never received a formal diagnosis in her lifetime, we now understand that Anna likely suffered from gigantism. This condition, caused by a tumor on the pituitary gland, leads to an overproduction of growth hormone. People with gigantism grow exceptionally quickly and, sadly, often have shorter lifespans. So Anna faced a challenging health situation from the very beginning. But despite these difficulties, fate had a remarkable adventure in store for her. They had her back. Anna's family were incredibly supportive. When she outgrew her school desk, her father, showing remarkable love and ingenuity, built her a new one. He even crafted a custom-made bed so she could sleep comfortably. They did everything they could to make her feel loved and included. But sadly, they couldn't shield her from the curious stares and the sometimes unkind judgments of the outside world. That was a battle Anna would have to face on her own. She lost her babies. Anna's joy turned to unbearable grief once more. Her son lived only 11 hours. He posthumously received a Guinness World Record as the largest baby ever recorded. This second loss had a profound and lasting impact on Anna. She couldn't recover. The loss of her children plunged Anna into a deep depression. She withdrew from public life and stopped touring, unable to cope with her grief. While she later attempted a return to the circus, she ultimately retreated again, unable to overcome her sadness. This marked a turning point in her life. She pursued a quiet life. Following her return to the circus and subsequent withdrawal, Anna and Martin chose a quieter life in the late 1870s. By the spring of 1880, they were largely focused on their farm and became more active members of their local Baptist church. How it ended. In 1888, Anna died in her sleep from heart failure, a complication of tuberculosis and thyroid problems. She was just a day shy of her 42nd birthday. Her life, so extraordinary and filled with both triumph and tragedy, had come to an end. She was honored. After Anna's death, Martin erected a monument at her gravesite. A year later, he remarried and moved from their Ohio home to accommodate his new wife. However, when Martin passed away, he was buried beside Anna and their son, a fitting end to their extraordinary love story. Here Comes Love. It's a classic story, really. Every giantess needs her giant. Anna and Martin fell in love and married in London in 1871, after touring together. It was through this marriage that Anna took her husband's name, becoming Anna Haining Bates. And this union brought with it another wonderful gift. Her love story intrigued the Queen. Remember Anna's friendship with Queen Victoria? Well, the Queen, having lost her beloved husband Prince Albert in 1861, was still grieving deeply. But that didn't stop her from finding joy in the love stories of others. She received a remarkable gift. When news of Anna and Martin's wedding reached Queen Victoria, she sent a truly remarkable gift: a stunning wedding gown made from 100 meters of satin, 50 meters of lace, and embroidered with delicate orange blossoms. But that wasn't all. She had an awesome ceremony. There's a wonderful story that Queen Victoria arranged for Anna and Martin's wedding to be held at St. Martin-in-the-Fields Church. We can't confirm it completely, but it's a charming tale reflecting the unique bond between the Queen and Anna. Whatever the location, more royal gifts were on their way. She got bedazzled. Following the wedding, Anna and Martin were invited back to Buckingham Palace. Queen Victoria presented Anna with a beautiful diamond ring, and Martin received a gold watch and chain. This wasn't a one-time meeting either. They would visit the Queen at least twice more, and even meet other members of the royal family. It was a truly remarkable friendship. She became a spectacle. Word of Anna's extraordinary size spread throughout Nova Scotia. People flocked to her family's farm, eager to see this amazing young girl for themselves. Local newspapers wrote about her, some even calling her an infant giantess. Anna, still a child, became a local spectacle. And her family, recognizing the interest, saw a chance to use this unusual situation to their advantage. This is where Anna's life took a truly unexpected turn. She earned her keep. The Bates family were farmers, hard-working folks who knew the value of a dollar. Anna's unusual size meant extra expenses, clothes, shoes. Everything was custom-made and costly. To help make ends meet, they made a difficult but pragmatic decision. They started taking Anna to local fairs, showcasing her as a remarkable sight. It wasn't easy, but it was a way to help support their daughter and the whole family. It was a difficult choice, but one born out of necessity. Her family stayed with her. Naturally, there's some debate about Anna's early career as a traveling attraction. While the family's need for money is understandable, some historians criticize their decision as exploitative. However, most agree that her family's intentions were good. They stayed with her constantly, protecting her and carefully selecting events that were family-friendly. Their aim, it seems, was to capitalize on the public's curiosity while ensuring Anna's safety and well-being. It's a complex situation with no easy answers. Her deal was tight. Anna's contract with Barnum was surprisingly generous. She earned $23 a week in gold, a significant sum, equivalent to several $100s today. She also had a chaperone for protection and was allowed to sell photos of herself, keeping the profits, a remarkable clause for a woman in that era. This eased her family's worries about her safety and well-being, now that she was working independently of them. She took the stage. At Barnum's, Anna wasn't just an exhibit. She became a performer. She acted out scenes, even taking on iconic roles like Lady Macbeth. She also held question and answer sessions with the audience, sharing her life story and experiences. This gave her control over her narrative, transforming her from a mere spectacle into an engaging storyteller and educator, fulfilling, in a way, her earlier aspirations to teach. But, unfortunately, her time at Barnum's Museum wouldn't last forever. She narrowly escaped. In 1865, disaster struck. A fire engulfed Barnum's Museum. Anna, weighing nearly 400 pounds, was trapped. The stairs were engulfed in flames, and she was too large to escape through a window. It was a terrifying ordeal. But incredibly, 18 people managed to carry her to safety. While she survived, the fire's aftermath would bring about significant changes in Anna's life. She lives on. Anna and Martin Bates are still remembered in Seville, Ohio, where a museum displays artifacts from their lives. There's also a museum dedicated to Anna in Halifax, Nova Scotia, maintained with the help of some of her descendants, keeping her extraordinary story alive for future generations. A little backstory. Throughout her life, Anna was often described as being over 8 feet tall, a slight exaggeration used to boost her appeal as a show attraction. While she was exceptionally tall, she didn't quite reach that height. But the inflated figure stuck around in newspaper accounts, adding to the legend of the Nova Scotian giantess. Her legacy. Posters from the British Library show Anna advertised as the largest woman in the world, even topping the billing of Chang and Eng, the famous Siamese twins, who were huge stars in London at the time. This shows just how incredibly popular Anna was, a testament to her captivating personality and extraordinary size. Anna and Andre's stories remind us that even in extraordinary circumstances, the human spirit can shine. Their lives, though marked by both triumph and tragedy, continue to inspire. She was a giver. A year after their wedding, Anna and Martin bought a home in Seville, Ohio, specially designed to suit their height. Think extra high ceilings and wide doorways. But cleverly, they designed the back of the house with standard-sized rooms for their servants and guests, showing their thoughtfulness for others. Life wasn't always easy for them, though. Life on the road was hard. Life on the road wasn't always easy. Working with different show promoters sometimes led to unpleasant experiences. There was even an incident where they were ejected from a train. The reasons aren't entirely clear. But Anna, resilient as ever, seemed to bounce back from such setbacks. Her ability to find love and happiness was something she always possessed. She took in animals. Anna had a deep love for animals. She opposed horse racing and rescued cattle and draft horses for their farm. She and Martin also adopted retired circus animals. Family stories still circulate about a mischievous monkey named Buttons, who caused quite a stir with visitors to their home. She grew, and she lost. In 1872, Anna and Martin experienced the joy and heartbreak of parenthood. Their baby girl, born weighing 18 pounds, sadly passed away soon after birth. This devastating loss would not be the last tragedy Anna would face. Tragedy struck once more. 6 years later, Anna became pregnant again, this time with a son. But the birth was incredibly difficult. She lost a large amount of amniotic fluid and faced a prolonged, arduous labor. The doctor eventually made a horrifying discovery. Her baby was too big. Anna's baby was enormous. So large, in fact, that the doctor couldn't use forceps to deliver him. They had to resort to a risky method to bring him into the world, and the child was born weighing an astounding 23 pounds. Martin later wrote that the baby looked like a 6-month-old, but sadly, this child too did not survive. Andrei-René Roussimoff. Known around the world as both a professional wrestler and an actor, Andrei became a cultural icon, earning the title of the eighth wonder of the world. His size, presence, and charisma left an indelible mark on history, making him one of the tallest and most fascinating individuals the world has ever seen. The story of Andrei-René Roussimoff begins on May 19, 1946, in the small town of Coulommiers, France. Born into a farming family, André started his life like any other baby, though even at birth he stood out. He weighed about 6 kilograms, quite large for a newborn. Growing up, André's extraordinary size was apparent early on. By the age of 12, he was already 1.91 meters tall, towering over his peers. Schooling ended for André at 14, as compulsory education in France stopped there at the time. He spent the next few years helping on the family farm and taking a job at a local factory, contributing to his household like many young people in rural France. By the time he reached adulthood, André had grown to an incredible 2.23 meters tall and weighed over 235 kilograms. At 17, André was summoned for military service. However, it quickly became clear that this would be a challenge, not for André, but for the army. His size was so immense that no uniforms, boots, or even equipment could accommodate him. Recognizing this, the government made a rare exception, excusing André from service. It was just another way his life defied expectations. By 1964, 18-year-old André Roussimoff had made a life-changing move to Paris. It was here that fate intervened. A professional wrestling promoter caught sight of André and immediately saw his potential. With his towering size and unique presence, André seemed destined for the wrestling ring. Soon, he began competing in France under the name Géant Ferré, inspired by a local folk legend. André's wrestling career took off quickly, taking him across the globe. He wrestled in Japan, Canada, Germany, England, and the United States, performing under the name the Roussimoff Monster. No matter where he went, André drew crowds, captivating audiences with his unmatched size and strength. In 1971, André crossed paths with Vince McMahon Sr., the president of the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. It was a pivotal moment. Vince suggested André adopt a new persona and a new name. From that point on, he became known as André the Giant, a name that would define his legacy. But Vince's advice didn't stop at the name. André was also asked to adapt his style. Instead of the energetic, fast-moving athlete he'd been early in his career, he was encouraged to slow things down, portraying a more imposing, yet deliberate character. If you watch his matches from the mid to late 1980s, you'll notice this shift. André seemed slower, his movements more restrained. But those who saw him in the early 1970s remember a different man, incredibly agile, powerful, and a force to be reckoned with. During this transformative period in his career, André was diagnosed with acromegaly. This rare condition, caused by an overactive pituitary gland, resulted in an excess of growth hormone, leading to his extraordinary size. It was both a gift and a challenge, shaping André into the giant that the world would come to know and admire. It didn't take long for people to realize André the Giant wasn't just a spectacle, he was a goldmine. When he wrestled in Montreal, Canada, fans flocked to see him. André became the main attraction, drawing massive crowds every night. But there was one problem. No wrestler could match him in size or presence. Even the biggest competitors looked tiny standing next to him. Eventually, the novelty wore off as André became a household name in Montreal. That's when he hit the road, embarking on a grueling travel schedule to keep the money flowing. Back then, professional wrestling wasn't the global business we know today. It was regional. Promotions operated in specific areas, and TV broadcasts were limited to certain markets. Without the internet, Most fans had no idea what was happening beyond their local scene. This worked in Andre's favor. Whenever he arrived in a new town, it was a major event. Everyone wanted to see the giant in action. Andre almost never lost a match, but he also never needed a championship to prove his worth. He was such a massive draw that his presence alone sold out arenas. Titles were for building reputations. Andre already had one of the biggest in the world. That's how legends are made. If Andre had chosen a different path, say basketball, he could have been one of the tallest NBA players in history. But unlike many tall athletes who were lanky, Andre wasn't just tall, he was massive. His sheer size set him apart from everyone, no matter the sport. Inside the wrestling ring, Andre commanded respect. Even though matches are predetermined, he had the power to enforce his will. If a wrestler didn't earn his approval, Andre could make sure they felt every ounce of his strength. Traveling, though, was a constant challenge for Andre. Airplanes weren't built for someone his size. He needed 2 first-class seats just to fit. And even then, the experience was uncomfortable. Beds, showers, and toilets, everyday conveniences, were never designed for a man of his stature. He could barely use the bathroom on a plane, a reminder that being a giant came with its own set of struggles. When Andre the Giant arrived in Japan, his size often caused unexpected challenges. Even hailing a taxi wasn't easy. Many drivers refused to pick him up, terrified by his massive frame. On one occasion, Andre had to hide in a corner, while another wrestler flagged down a cab. But when Andre stepped out to get in, the driver panicked, yelling, "No, no, no," and tried to speed off. Andre, unfazed, grabbed the car, holding it in place. Needless to say, the driver wasn't going anywhere until Andre let go. Andre's strength wasn't just for show. It came in handy during some unforgettable moments. Take his match against real-life boxer Chuck Wepner, for example. Unlike typical wrestling bouts, this one was legitimate. Chuck's punches barely fazed Andre, but when the big man lost his patience, he simply hoisted Wepner up and tossed him over the ropes like a rag doll, ending the match in dramatic fashion. Then, there's the time Andre encountered a troublemaker in a bar. The man wanted to pick a fight, but Andre, ever the gentleman, refused and even offered to buy the guy a drink. But the man wouldn't back down, continuing to provoke him. Finally, Andre had enough. He picked the guy up and threw him across the room, breaking a few ribs in the process. Lesson learned: don't mess with Andre the Giant. Beyond his feats of strength, Andre was legendary for his drinking. And we're not talking about casual sipping. By all accounts, Andre could outdrink anyone, earning him a reputation as possibly the greatest drinker in history. He reportedly consumed around 7,000 calories of alcohol a day. To stay warm, he'd drink 2 bottles of vodka, and he once downed 108 beers in a single sitting at the Delta Lounge in Tampa Airport. On a trip to Japan, he polished off 12 bottles of French wine in just 3 hours. For Andre, these were just ordinary days. Andre the Giant's drinking stories are legendary, and, for good reason, they're almost impossible to believe. On a flight from Chicago to Tokyo, traveling with fellow wrestler Ric Flair, Andre drank every drop of vodka on the plane. Another time, on a flight from Miami to Dayton, he teamed up with Hillbilly Jim to finish off 56 small bottles of vodka. Andre drank 50 of them himself. Before his wrestling matches, Andre's pre-game ritual was equally epic. He would drink 6 bottles of Portuguese wine. And there's the unforgettable night when, for his final drink, Andre ordered 40 shots of vodka. The bartender reluctantly agreed to stay late, finally closing shop at 5 a.m. once Andre was done. During a month-long hotel stay in England, Andre racked up a staggering $40,000 bar tab. But perhaps his most famous drinking spree happened one night with fellow wrestlers Mike Graham, Dusty Rhodes, and Michael Hayes. All three confirmed the same jaw-dropping number. Andre drank 156 beers that night. But Andre's drinking wasn't just about indulgence, it was also a way to cope. By his 30s, his immense size had begun to take a toll. He lived with constant pain, especially in his joints and back. While filming The Princess Bride, Andre couldn't even hold co-star Robin Wright, who weighed just 110 pounds, for a scene. Instead, a prop had to be used because his back was so sore. In the wrestling ring, Andre was unbeatable for 15 years in the US and Canada, a reign that solidified his legendary status. But by 1987, his body was breaking down. At WrestleMania 3 in Detroit, in front of the largest crowd in wrestling history, Andre lost to Hulk Hogan. That match marked the beginning of the end of his career. Though he wrestled a few more times, he was never the same. In January 1993, while in France for his father's funeral, Andre passed away at just 46 years old. The cause was fluid buildup around his heart. Andre was the first ever inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame, a fitting tribute to a man whose impact transcends wrestling. Over the years, many wrestlers have approached his stature, but none have truly filled his shoes. The life of the eighth wonder of the world was short, but his legacy is timeless, a blend of strength, humanity, and unparalleled fame that still inspires awe. Please comment 1 to let me know you'll be watching this video until the end. From resilience to exploitation, these lives were as complex as they were extraordinary. Which story stayed with you the most? Share your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this journey into history's strangest corners, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you won't miss what's coming next.